this video we'll have a look at JavaScript functions. So these are the functions you create, not the one which you get with JavaScript. Here we have 4 functions defined, 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll go through one by one and see how they are defined and how they are meant to be used. The first one is a simple function. So we are calling the simple function when you click the first button. So here you can define a function with the keyword function and the function name. You can do whatever processing you need and then you can return the result. So here we are returning simple function call. Let's click on the first one. So here is your result, simple function call. The second button calls simple function with default argument. So here we have a function and the argument is 1. Let's have a look at the function. So we have our simple function with default arguments. If you see, we don't take any argument here. But with JavaScript, we get an implicit inbuilt arguments object. So you can pass any number of objects to it, although your function definition does not say that it takes a number of arguments. By default, if you don't pass any variables or arguments to this particular function, the arguments.length will be 0. Here we are passing 1, so you will get arguments.length as 1. So this is a digression from normal norms in other languages. In other languages, you have to define that a function is going to take a certain number of args. In Java, you give a string args, etc. But in JavaScript, you get a implicit arguments object. So you got total arguments passed as 1. Our third button here calls a simple test function. So here we have our test function. The test function returns a plus b. A and b are defined in global context and the addition is returned by our test. So here if we click on 3, we get the number 15. Our fourth button calls the tester function, which takes an argument anaconda. So this is a function, returns an input, but the function has been defined and assigned to the tester object, and this is how you call that object normally in a script. Let's click on our fourth button. So you get an anaconda. One major difference while using this way of defining an object is in JavaScript there is a concept of hoisting. So in hoisting, all the function definitions are hoisted to the top of the JavaScript file. So you can call the test function on the first line of the script, although it is defined way below. So that's how JavaScript functions. Implicitly, functions are hoisted. But if you define a function and assign it to a variable, as variables are not hoisted, you cannot call tester on the first line. So that's one of the major differences of defining a function this way or defining a function and assigning it to a variable. So these are some of the ways you can define and use a function in JavaScript.